People of Reddit, when did you have a gut feeling that later saved your life?
During one of my shifts of delivering pizza, we had 2 orders come in at around midnight. We were open till 1. Back then it was mostly a cash business. The first stop was in a very sketchy area, and the second stop about maybe a quarter mile down the road, if not closer, to another apartment complex. I got to the first stop and the person at the door seemed odd. I'm walking back to the car and a few guys rolled up on me asking some innocent type of questions. Not wanting to offend, I answered them concisely and proceeded on my way to the next stop. Unfortunately, I had to park a bit away and walk around the building to get to the door, but now I'm on high alert because the whole previous situation left me feeling uneasy and vulnerable. I quickly raced my way to the door, dropped off the food and ran back to my car. I get in, quickly start it up and throw it in reverse. Next thing I noticed is the same 3 guys surrounding my car with a gun in my face. I floor it in reverse, threw it into first, and hauled ass out of there while ducking underneath the doors and steering wheel. Obviously they were there to rob me by whatever means necessary and got cold feet on their first probable attempt. This was 14-ish years ago and an experience I'll never forget. Shit scarred me for a while. I packed my backpack and left the hostel. I was heading for the train. I had 20 minutes to make the connection. Something told me to stop and get the next train. A bomb went off 10 minutes later. It killed and injured lots of people. I caught a bus. 1979. I have paid attention to that feeling ever since.
This one is weird and a bit spooky, but when I was around 10, my mom and sister had gone to pick up a new propane canister from the store and we were heading to a shopping center to get haircuts. While we were in the turning lane into the strip mall, my mom popped a cigarette into her mouth and was about to light it. My sister said, "Mom, we're here. What's the point?" That in and of itself was out of character for my sister, but for my mom to actually listen and put it away was, in retrospect, ludicrous. But listen she did. After about 10 minutes, we were in the salon, everyone starts looking out the window and rubbernecking. A fire truck, full lights and down blazing, had come screaming into the parking lot. We realized pretty quick that they were surrounding my mom's car. Apparently, someone had called 911 saying they smelled propane and had identified it was coming from my mom's car. We rush out and they keep us back away. We explain it's our car and hand them the keys so they can get in. After a couple minutes evaluation, the firemen came to us and explained that the tank had a major leak and they had to dispose of it. That's when the gravity of my sister stopping my mom from lighting up hit us like a ton of bricks. We tell the firefighters the story and the look on their faces was a lot. The head fireman looked a bit unsteady and tells my mom that based on the leak they found, after about 5 minutes of the gas escaping we had created a bomb essentially. We had been in car 5 to 7 minutes after picking up and heading to the salon. He explained that if she had lit that cigarette, we would have exploded right there in the turning lane. Really wild stuff. Thanks, Kel. You saved our asses.
Back about 15 years ago, I woke up super early one morning with the worst headache I had ever had. I knew immediately that I needed to throw up. I assumed this was a migraine because of the nausea. But it didn't get any better. As I lay on the bathroom floor, vomiting regularly, I suddenly had the strong feeling that if I didn't get to the hospital, my 17-year-old son was going to find me here dead when he wakes up. So I dragged myself to my feet, stumbled to the door of my son's room and told him that I needed him to call 911 because I was sick. I then lay down on my bed. I learned later that I had had a seizure and my son had to follow the operator's instructions as to what to do. Anyway, the ambulance came, they got me to the hospital and it turned out I had a leaking brain aneurysm. Had it ruptured, I would have died at age 49. I'm very glad I listened to that little voice.
I had a very important meeting the next morning, but was feeling off. I took 2 Benadryl and went to bed. Woke up a few hours later with a full-on anaphylaxis. Doctors said I probably would have died in my sleep if I hadn't taken the antihistamine. I never reach for Benadryl, so I have no idea why I thought to take it.
I was planning to meet with my friends and then I decided not to be absent at work. Later that night, I found out they were shot dead.
I didn't go at a green light when it changed. I always do. I'm quick off the line, I like driving. One time, I just didn't. I sat there for a second. A moment goes by and a Dodge Durango with the driver on the phone blasts through a red light. I was in my Honda del Sol. It would have annihilated me.
One day in kindergarten, my lunch kit included my dad's work thermos. It was charcoal gray and I was kinda proud to use something that was usually just for adults, and not my usual plastic cartoon character container. When it was lunchtime, we all pulled out our lunch kits and drinks. While doing so, I knocked the thermos off the table and it hit the floor. When I picked it up and placed it on the table, I thought it was pretty neat that even after hours at school, the ice inside was still frozen, as you could hear it when moving the container. For some reason, I kept trying to get my teacher's attention to show her how the ice was still frozen and floating in my drink. She understandably wasn't as excited as I was, so she blew me off. I kept at it over and over and she finally relented, unscrewing the cap to see my oh so exciting drink. When she opened it, she quickly pulled it away from my view and asked me if I drank any yet. I hadn't and told her so but was very confused. She explained that the thermos was lined with glass, that shattered when I dropped it and the icy clinking noise came from the glass shards inside. Still don't understand why I kept nagging her to see my dumb thermos, but it's scary to imagine drinking from it.
It didn't save my life, but my grandma's. I was home alone with my grandparents. It was early in the morning and I got up to help them with something. I hadn't slept a lot the night before, so I told my grandma I was going back to sleep. I stayed in my bed for about 15 to 20 minutes, but I couldn't sleep. It was like something in the back of my mind stopped me and it felt like I couldn't stand to stay in my room anymore. I got up and went back in the kitchen where my grandma was. She had just finished cooking breakfast and sat down at her chair. She didn't look well, so I was about to measure her blood pressure. I couldn't. She just fell limp and couldn't breathe. I couldn't hear her pulse either. So I grabbed her from the chair and put her down on the floor and performed CPR. She regained consciousness and a few minutes later the medics came. She is a lot better now and I'm thankful I didn't sleep that day.
I had just gotten a massage in central Brussels and was about to get something to eat. But something just didn't feel right that evening, so I took the bus home instead. I did hear some loud bangs as I took my seat, but thought it was just my imagination. About 30 minutes later my phone blew up from calls from friends and family, because just as I had hopped on the bus, a mental case was targeting people wearing Swedish colors where I had just been, while I was wearing Swedish colors. It happened about a year ago. 2 of my kinsmen tragically lost their lives. I was in high school and my buddy offered me a ride home from school. It was a nice day and I lived close by, so I declined and said I would walk. He rolled over his Ford Explorer on his way home and the passenger's side roof was smashed in.
Didn't save mine, but it saved my older sister's. We were at a gas station and my family was walking inside, with my sister a little further behind us. For some reason, I turned around and screamed her name. A car was right behind her with a man ready to snatch her up. I was a kid at the time, so I don't remember it, but my sister sure does. To this day, I always make sure everyone I'm with is within my eyesight. Didn't know it was a habit I always had until my sister told me.
Not going with my friends to the finish line at the local marathon. Because I wouldn't go, none of my friends went either. About 30 minutes later, a roommate came running through the halls covered in sweat. He said he started running when the bombs went off. It was Boston in 2013.
I was probably 6 or 7, playing in a sandpit in my family's side yard under an absolutely massive poplar tree, probably 80 to 100 foot tall. It wasn't a particularly windy day, but I distinctly remember getting a feeling that I needed to go inside, now. Before I got to the door, a decent-sized branch fell from the top of the tree and embedded itself broken side down, deep in the sand, right where I previously was. Would have been a grisly discovery for my family, and I was old enough to be pretty shaken. Cemented early on that I should listen to the vibes, I guess.
Stationary at lights. Something felt off and eerie, so I looked into my rearview mirror to see a woman still doing 30 miles per hour into my rear bumper. What felt like a fraction of a second, between registering and acting, I stood on the brakes. A kid around 8 was crossing the road and directly in front of my car. He got a little bumped and ran away. Had my gut not told me to look up and stand on the brakes, it could have ended in disaster.
It was 19 years ago. I was visiting New Delhi as a prospective college student. After spending a day doing campus tour with my family, we were free the next day, so my parents decided they wanted to go sightseeing around Delhi. I wasn't in the mood to go, but my parents wouldn't hear it. A combination of sulking and I just want to go back to the hotel all day while being dragged around to visit tourist sites. In the evening, my mom and aunt decided to go to this famous Sarojini market for Diwali shopping while Dad would babysit me and my younger brother in the van. Now the I just want to go back feeling had turned into I really think we should leave right now. But who'd listen to me, right? So I threw a massive tantrum and Dad had to go fetch Mom and Aunt so we could leave. When we got back to the room and switched the TV on, we saw news coverage of the same market we had just left. The incident happened exactly where our van had been parked earlier. It was very tragic.
Thank you for watching till the end. Subscribe, like and comment if you enjoyed the video.